Hi, this is Trinesha Cottrell, and today I wanted to talk about, do you love yourself? I know it's like not the normal like questions or anything like that. And I was gonna say something, but I don't want it to come off as arrogant or anything like that. And so I won't say it. I might say it just because that way you could judge whether it's arrogant or not. But I'm not ever trying to be boastful or arrogant or anything like that. I'm just, when I thought of it, it was funny to me, but then I was thinking somebody else might think it's arrogant, but it doesn't matter what other people think. So I'm just gonna say it. So, nope, I won't say it. It'll be fine. Nobody will care. But yeah, this is different. So I went into the office today. That's why I have like the pearls, but sometimes I just wear pearls now just because, I just didn't feel like changing it, or, it was in the front of my jewelry thing and I was like, okay, pearls today, And so it's funny because I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting, and at the beginning of my journey I did a lot of self-reflecting and I was learning how to love myself. And I've been going through like different things lately, and then through my fast, and God's been showing me some things that were still broken inside of me, or some things that I still needed to heal from, or things that I still struggle with from my past. And I thought I had let go of a lot of those things, and some things are like new things that I didn't even realize was a thing, like I didn't know that vulnerability could be a strength. Like I just learned that. I always was told never be weak, never be vulnerable, never allow anybody to ever see you at your weakest, and I think that's for protection for the most part, because you can't just be vulnerable with everyone. It's only with a trusted few. And so you have to make sure that you are really using discernment, and you're leaning on God to make sure that He allows the right people to be a part of your life, so that you don't just go telling everybody your business, or you don't just share and divulge too much information with people who don't deserve it. So I do think there's a healthy balance for that. And I do think, like I said in the last video, that in order to be vulnerable, or in order to be courageous, or to withstand fear, or go against the fear that you have to be a little vulnerable, because it's fear. You're afraid of it for a reason. So that puts you in a vulnerable state. And also, when you decide to be courageous, that is a step beyond, beyond being vulnerable. Like you allow yourself to be afraid, but then you face that fear. And so, as I was doing some self reflection today, and I was listening to an audiobook this morning, I think I finished the other book yesterday. It was like, this book will tell you everything, or something like that. Like, this is the only book you'll need. It's called something like that. I'll look up what it was and I'll put it in the thing, in the description, if I remember, because it was really insightful. It had me thinking about self-reflection and just ways to just advance in my life, ways to do better, ways to be intentional with every day, ways to just start to speak life into myself, ways to really visualize what I want my future to look like. And I don't mean in a I'm stepping on God's toes kind of way. I mean in a like, we spend all of this time thinking of all these negative things for ourselves, like, oh, I can't do this, I won't be able to do this, like, oh, you did this, and we beat ourselves up for making mistakes or missteps or anything that we do wrong in life. We are so ready to just jump on ourselves, like, oh, you should have done better than that, oh, you should have known better than that. But listen, I'm like Maya Angelou on this one. Like, you do the best you can until you know better, and then you do better. You making a mistake at the beginning when you don't know any better is just human nature. It's like you're going to mess up, because we're human. We're not God. We're not. God is the only thing that's perfect. That's what my grandma always says. God is the only thing that's perfect. And so, if God is the only thing that's perfect, why are we striving for perfectionism? It's nothing wrong with trying to be as close to perfect as you can, but you have to know what your limits are. You have to be realistic, and you have to also go for your dreams. I know some of those things sound contradictory, but I say it like that because you have to always believe in yourself. You have to always speak life into yourself, into the sky is the limit, and God can make the impossible possible. What I mean by unrealistic is, don't say you want to lose 100 pounds in one day, because there's no way to do that in a healthy way. Or 300 pounds in one day. Let's say it like that, because some people will go get some kind of surgery and they'll say, oh, it's 100 pounds down. Listen, we're not talking about that. We're talking about realistically, in a healthy way that's good for your body, that would allow you to be able to heal in the correct way. Those are things that you should be striving for. You should be striving for the healthiest, mentally, the healthiest physically, the healthiest emotionally. You don't want to just go through some kind of hypnosis and forget about the person that broke your heart, because you never want to feel that way again, and because you never want to like just continue on in your life remembering the pain that you felt when your heart was shattered into a million pieces. That's not going to help you in the future. That pain is going to be used to push you into purpose. That pain is going to be used so that you might be able to help somebody else in the same situation. That pain is going to be used to help build you and carry you to the next level of your life. Without that pain, you will never be able to learn from it. You'll never be able to grow from it. You'll never be able to become all of the things that God created you to be, because He can use anything and turn it and flip it for His glory. He really can. It could be the worst of situations. You could be the worst individual, and then maybe instead of you being manipulative, now all of a sudden you are God, this God that like you are so into the church that you start encouraging other people to come. And it's because that manipulation was flipped and used for good. You know, so sometimes we feel like, oh, we're so bad, God will never be able to use us. But God can literally use anybody in any situation, anything, for the glory of the kingdom. And sometimes we forget that. We feel like we have to be perfect to come to God, and you really don't have to be. You just have to be willing to seek God's face. Just give Him all of everything that's on your mind, everything that's on your heart, everything that's worrying you. Take it to Him, and He will help you. He'll meet you exactly where you are. Like, I know I always say this and I talk about these conversations and stuff, but God will be like, God will literally come to my level and talk to me about stuff. Like, He'll be like, that's what you're doing. Like, you know that the reason why you're not doing this is because of this. And I'm like, you're right, God. Like he gives it to me straight. Like that's how I like people in my life, for real. Like I know like people say, oh no, I don't want to just know the truth about everything. I'm not saying somebody's intentionally trying to hurt me and they just say a bunch of mean things because it makes them feel better. I don't need that type of person in my life. I mean, like I really like I met a few people recently, and like friends and things like that, and the honestly, if I could be like 100% honest, the guys that I respect are the ones that are 100% honest. And I don't mean like they don't ever lie, because I think everyone lies, even unintentionally. Like I might unintentionally tell a lie, but I don't go seeking a lie. Like I'm not just intentionally trying to lie, you know. I might just say, "Oh, I'll be there at 8," and I end up there at 8:30. You know, something like that will happen. And it's not that I meant to lie. I just ended up running behind and I didn't get there on time. You know, something like that will happen. But it's not and that's usually like a family event because I had to stop at the store to pick up something because they needed ice, or you know, something else. But you know, it's just stuff like that. But but the men that I really truly respect, the people in my life that I truly respect, are the ones that give it to me straight. Like they're like this and this, and I'm like, okay. I mean, what am I gonna say? You can't control what anybody else does. You know, you just accept it or you don't, and you go on about your business. It's not like a, oh no, you know, it's just like, okay, you have every right to feel however it is that you feel. This is your life. I can't live your life for you. You can't live my life for me. So it is what it is, you know, like, and I respect the mess out of every guy that's straight up like that. Whatever their intentions are, whatever it is that they want, like, I just, I really do. Like, there's this one person who, I'm not gonna say the name or anything like that, but there's this one person who I met who was different than what I would have expected. I thought this person was gonna be like, you know, they were super funny. So I was just like, oh, you know, when people are funny, you just think of them like as a funny person. You don't think of them like, you don't think of anything else. You're just kind of like, for me. And so I'm just like, oh, this person's funny. That's it. You know, this person was so super intelligent, like so smart, so well educated. Like, I mean, had a vision for what their life was going to be like they knew what their focus was in life. Like, and and just honest, like straight up. I don't mean like honest, like they need to tell me their whole backstory and I need to know all the skeletons in their closet, but like just like this, and this. Like I'm living my life intentionally. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. We didn't want the same things because we were not equally, I mean, we were equally yoked, but we didn't, like, I was headed in another direction in my life and they were headed in this direction. And where my purpose is headed, it wouldn't have made sense. And where they're headed, it wouldn't have made sense. But I will tell you one thing. That person definitely earned my respect. And I don't say that about a lot of people. I don't I don't meet a lot of people that I respect like that. And so I was pleasantly surprised. And so I just think I don't know how I even got to that conversation, to that whole scenario. But anyways, yes. And so it's just funny because sometimes we can have like this, I don't want to say unrealistic, but we'll have this idea of who someone else is without allowing them to be who they truly are. And I've been learning lately that sometimes we put our insecurities or things that we struggle with on someone else. And I know, like, you might hear it in a different way and be like, oh, I already knew that. But no, like, it's deeper than that. Like, you're thinking, oh, yeah, this person, they just blah. And all of a sudden, I'm just blah because, like, they might be real shy and they have a problem with being secure in who they are. You might be confident and you might be sure of, who you are and whose you are. You meet this person and all of a sudden you become super insecure. You don't know where it came from. Spiritually transmitted demon. Just like that. Bam! On you. I know people are like, why does she talk like this? But listen, if you watched the video before, you know this is how I am. So it just is what it is. And so as I was doing self-reflection, I started to go through like my notes, and I take a lot of notes. Like, I literally got this. Okay, you can't see it. But yes, I write a lot because I love to write. Like, when I say I love to write, people are like, I like writing too, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, listen, I really like writing. Like, I gotta flip through pages to try to find my notes because I write so much. Like, it's a problem. It's not a real problem. I don't even know why I said that. Let me not appreciate. Okay, here we are. Found it. So, I'm gonna have to go backwards and then forwards because I think this is the way it was. All right. So earlier today, I was thinking about whether I really truly love myself. And I wrote down this note because they were talking about spiritually transmitted demons. Sometimes we think that the only way that you get a spiritually transmitted demon is if, you're intimate with somebody. You could get a soul tie, have a spiritual transmitted demon just by opening up to somebody or just by getting to know somebody, allowing that person to be around you, allowing that person, giving that person like a part of your heart, or maybe you start to like that person or before discerning with God or something like that. Like, it's so many different ways to get that, and that spirit gets on you, and a lot of people think it's a joke, and they're like, oh no, I'll date whoever I want, I'll do whatever I want, when I want, how I want. I've been there and done that, and I'm telling you, it's not worth it. It really is not worth it, because regardless of what you do, it's going to end up exactly the way God wanted it to. You're going to think you're doing your own thing. You're with the person that you want to be with. And God's like, no, this isn't the person for you. And you're like, I'm going to make this work. And God's like, I'm telling you, just walk away. Walk away. And you're like, but no, God, I got this. I'm going to just do what I want to do. And God's like, you know how you got that old person that like, you do something wrong and it's the old person in the family looking at you down their nose at you, and they're like, they give you that look like, put the glasses down, and they're looking out the corner of their glasses with that, like, the look that told you better straighten up now and get it together. Like, God will give you one of them looks, and then and then you'll be like, oh, but I really want to figure this out on my own. And God's like, okay, have at it. Or you go and do your own thing and it's disastrous. You have the worst heartbreak you've ever had in your life. It ends the way that it should have never began in the first place. Like, you end up heartbroken. You end up feeling like you lost something. You lose a piece of you. You get insecure. You get jealous. You turn into a person that you really don't want to be, or a person God never created you to be, all because you decided to be disobedient to God. And you end up with a whole bunch of things on you that wasn't even part of your personality before you got with that person, because you were never appointed to be with that person. That person was never grace for you, and you were never grace for them. But you just had to do your own thing, didn't you? You just had to do it. Like, you had this itch. You had to get there. You had to be with that person. You had to talk to somebody that you knew was not graced or equally yoked for you at all. You knew that this person was bad for you. You knew that this person would never be the type of person that God would intend for you to be with. But you just had to do it. And now you're heartbroken. Now you're like, God, I'll listen to you next time. I'll do all the things that you want for me to do. Would you really? Or do you just want God like a genie in a bottle because you feel like he could just fix things like that? Because you have to really think about what it is that you truly are going to do in your life, what you really truly want in your life. And you have to start healing and loving yourself. You cannot just pretend to love yourself. People say fake it until you make it, and I don't know where people get that from. I mean, I get it because, if you are confident, eventually you'll be confident enough to learn more stuff. You'll put in more effort, and you will become better at it. But I also think that if you need help, if you don't know something, you have to constantly ask questions, because you can't get better and just automatically know all the answers to everything. You have to be willing to learn and grow and evolve. That's something that takes time. That's not something that you just fake it till you make it. That's something that is intentionality. You are intentionally growing. You're intentionally learning. You're intentionally speaking life into yourself and being more confident. You don't just, you're not just faking it. You are being realistic. You're being true to yourself while also believing in yourself, you know? And so I wrote down this note earlier, and I hope it makes sense, because when I get a thought in my head and I start writing, sometimes it doesn't make any sense because my thoughts are so far ahead of me. So let's see. We're going to see. I said, every time you get with someone who is not appointed for you, you take on their demons. The spiritual warfare that is why every time you think that you're healed, the wound reopens. That is why you feel insecure after you learn who's and who you are. That unequally yoked wrong person starts you over like a game. When you lose your life, you keep having to restart over and over again. How much of your life are you willing to waste? That's what I wrote earlier. I was feeling it. God put it on my heart, and I was just like, it's so true. It really is like a video game. Have you ever played one of those games where you're a person, you're running, and square, triangle, circle, whatever, you're doing jumps and you're going over stuff, and in the game, you lose your life, and it's got like 4 lives at the top or whatever. You lose your life and you have to restart. That's how it is every time you choose to be with somebody that God didn't appoint for you, that God didn't grace for you. Every single time you say, oh, I'm just wasting time. Oh, I'm not worried about being in a serious relationship right now. If you're not worried about being in a serious relationship right now, or you're not dating with the intent to find a kingdom spouse, and God isn't saying that you're destined to be married or something like that, then what are you doing with your life? How many times do you have to restart after Rick, after Bob, after James, after Tim, after whoever else? How many lives are you willing to waste on these men who are not grace for you? How many times are you going to lower your standards for another Jack? How many times are you going to keep on saying that you're changed and that you want better and settling for the worst, or accepting breadcrumbs, or allowing someone to get away with everything? How many times are you going to do that in your life? How many times are you going to keep giving people chance after chance when they've already showed you who you are? When someone shows you who you are, believe them. Maya Angelou. When when someone shows you who you are, believe them. Stop expecting them to change into somebody else. Only God can change somebody. All you could do is be the best version of you, and be living with intentionality, holding people accountable, and willing to stand your ground and respect yourself, respect and honor yourself by leading. That's what you can do. You can you can you put up with what it is that you are willing to settle for in your life, what you want in your life. Like if I'm, for example, just a quick example, if I am a good person, which I try to be a good person, a good, kind-hearted person who loves God, who wants to be treated with common decency, respect, and honor, if I want to be treated that way, I can't just settle for Joe Smo who gives me breadcrumbs when I want the meal, the dessert, the appetizer, the drinks, it all. Like that doesn't even make any sense. If I'm really hungry, why am I settling for a breadcrumb? That doesn't even make any sense. And sometimes that's what we do in life. We really make it seem like we want more, but we settle for an appetizer. We settle for a little piece of bread that's left over from the bread that you cut on the table that the waitress gave out for free at the restaurant. Like, why do we keep settling for that? Why are we not holding these men accountable? And sorry, men, I don't mean to step on your toes, but seriously, if you want to be treated better, you have to teach somebody how to treat you. People will only treat you as badly as you allow them to treat you. If you are the person constantly reaching out, if you're the person who constantly is setting up stuff, if you're the person who constantly is just allowing bad behavior, then you're saying that I want to be treated badly with this bad behavior. You're saying that I want to feel unwanted because I want to feel like I'm giving everything and the person's never giving me anything back. You're saying that I never want to be honored and loved because I don't honor and love or respect myself. If you truly love yourself, then you're speaking life into yourself. You're saying, I love myself. And you're not being boastful or just like bragging on yourself or, whatever else. Because in Proverbs, it says, leave it to somebody else. And I'm paraphrasing, but it says, leave it to somebody else to give you your flowers. And it's a whole nother phrase, but it means that. And what they mean is, instead of you being all boastful and bragging about who it is that you are, let somebody else see who you are. Let somebody else truly see your worth. You don't have to try to prove you're worthy if God created you worthy. You don't have to try to prove that you are who you are and whose you are when you already should know who you are. You have nothing to prove to anybody but God. So why are you doing the most to try to get this man who either is with somebody else or whatever else your situation is? You need to just be yourself. And the man for you will see you because he will know that you deserve honor and respect because you are the person for him. Because you are grace for him and he is grace for you. We spend our whole life doing the most to get the things that God never appointed to be a part of our life. And then we wonder why we are spiritually struggling and emotionally struggling, going through so much internal warfare. We're going through it because we are on a battlefield that we were never supposed to be on. We're in this war that God never intended for us to fight. Every single war, spiritual, mental, physical, psychological warfare that God set forth for us, He's already given us the tools to beat the battle. It's a fixed fight. We hear the song, we know the saying, but yet when we get into a battle of some sorts that we placed ourselves in, we wonder why we are so weak, why we are beat down, why we have no more energy. It's because we keep trying to step onto a battlefield that's not ours. We keep trying to fight this battle that's not even our battle. Why are we fighting more than we have to? It already says that we're going to go through trials and tribulations in the Bible. If we're already going to go through all of that, why are we trying to put ourselves through more stuff? Why are we making life harder than it has to be? It doesn't even make any sense. We just be doing the most. This is what I'm talking about. When God was telling me, He's like, why are you doing the most? Like, just chill out. And I'm like, I want to do this, this, and this. And He's like, listen. He told me to sit down and rest. And I was like, okay, I'm a rest. And still in my head, I was like, I want to do all of these things. And God's like, nobody said that you can't do any of those things, but I need you to rest right now. And rest doesn't always look like sleep. Sometimes it looks like you just not doing anything, being still, being in God's presence, because He can't talk to you if you're not listening to Him. How is He supposed to give you instructions if you can't even hear Him? You got so much going on. You scrolling online, you have so much noise in your ear, you're listening to so many things that aren't feeding your soul, and then you expect to hear the voice of God. How are you supposed to hear Him with all the distractions around you? And I don't mean that you shouldn't be able to discern. You build that relationship of discernment by building a relationship with God. You can only grow in discernment by building a relationship with God. You can't grow that by just doing whatever you want and then expecting God to just tell you instructions. You have to be intentional with your life. You have to really be willing to read the Word of God, listen to God, Listen to things that are feeding your mind. What are you lending your ear gates to? What are you allowing your eye gates to see? Whatever you're allowing your eyes to see and your ears to hear is leading your life. That is the thing that is guiding you where you're supposed to be going. If you have nothing but trash in your ears and in your eyes, like you're only seeing trash, then you're going to pour out trash. You're not going to pour something more into the world. But if you're listening to something that's educational, if you're learning things, if you are listening to things that inspire you, if you see things that are possible, like maybe you want to live in a mansion and you go see a mansion, maybe you want to drive this car and you see that car, maybe you want to go travel places and you see this beautiful place, or you look into books and different places to travel and you start researching exactly how much it costs, what you have to do to get there, what kind of things they have there, different places that you're going to see. You not cut out, but you you get pictures offline or whatever else, create a vision board, put up all the places you want to travel, all the places you want to see, and because your eyes have seen that, because your ears have heard, you know that it's possible. And then what are you doing with your tongue? Are you speaking wisdom, life? Are you shooting straight blades out of your mouth because, and I got that from Trey Songs. Are you doing that because you just are just spewing poison? Are you trying to cut people down and make them feel badly? Are you trying to make them feel like crap because you are miserable, because misery loves company? Like, what are you doing with your mouth? If you are speaking life into people, if you are saying things that are positive, if you are trying to solve problems, like instead of being like the person that's just talking about everybody and then saying, oh, they need to do this, they need to do that. I have done that in the past. That's why I'm talking about it. I never just say things just because I want people to feel badly. Usually it's because I either seen a ton of examples or I have done in the past. I'm talking to myself because I need to get myself straight, And so, like a long time ago, I used to do that. I would say something and I'd be like, I would jump in on the conversation, not to talk about somebody in a bad way, but people ask me and I'd be like, oh, yeah, something. Now, when people ask me, I say nothing. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I try to not say nothing. I try to stay out of it. My name's Bennett and I'm not in it. Like, I'm not trying to be a part of that. I'm trying to have prosper over my life. I want to prosper. I want to have, a wealthy life. I'm trying to live a life full of blessings. I'm not trying to get my blessings cut off because I'm over there talking about somebody else who is not part of my business at all. I don't care what they're doing with their life. Like, I care about them as a person, but my life doesn't hang on the balance of somebody's life that much for me to have to give an opinion over somebody else's life that I don't even know like that. Or even if I do know them like that, like, what am I going to do to help them? That's the Christian thing to do. That's what Christ would do. He would try to help the person. He wouldn't just be sitting there talking trash about somebody, trying to make them feel more badly about themselves. My business is first, love yourself. I can't pretend like I want people to love themselves while I'm talking trash about somebody. That doesn't even make any sense. That doesn't even go together. That's not even cohesive. So what am I doing? So when people will say something, I usually just, if I can't think of anything to say, if I don't have anything nice to say, I don't say nothing. Like, they'll be like, yeah, what do you think about this? They be doing this, don't they? And I'd be like you could probably hear the cricket in the background. It's so quiet. I'd just be like, and they'll be like, oh, you're not saying anything because you're in church now, huh? And I'm like, it's not just about church. It's because I want to, I'm trying to change the world. Like, you don't understand. Every single second of my life matters. I'm not trying to waste my life on somebody else. I don't know what they're doing with their life. I hope they find God. I hope they're doing the best that they can, but I can't live their life for them. I can only live my life. So while I'm being intentional with my life, the things that I can control, because I want to control how God's going to do some stuff in my life, and I can't even control that. If I can't control anything but my actions, I'm going to try to take advantage of that. like, like I already have like this tendency on the inside of me. So if I could do something positive with this controlling thing that I have, then I want to do that. I'm not trying to use it for bad. Like I said, use it for bad or good. I'm trying to use whatever gifts God gave me for good. If I'm still struggling with control issues, I'm trying to control my mouth. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to control my attitude. I'm trying to control my fashion sense. I'm trying to control my education, my learning, me being more well-rounded. I'm trying to control that. I'm trying to control, my relationship with God, that I am intentionally growing, knowing more about God, learning more about the Bible, telling him everything, good, bad, indifferent. That's what I'm controlling in my life. I'm not trying to control another person. I'm not going to trying to control what's going to happen in the future in my life. I'm just controlling what I can do at this moment, at this second, with myself. That's my control thing now. My control issues is turned into a control resolution, a control like control answer. Like these are the answers to the problems that I had, and now I'm going to be able to better navigate to make a better decision for my life. Like that's what I want to do. And so it was funny because oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my train of thought. I wrote a lot of stuff, but one thing that stood out that I did write on here, I wrote a lot of notes, and I'm not going to talk about all of them because it's already 30 minutes, and I appreciate you staying this long if you made it this far. I learned today that loving yourself is kingdom. I knew that before. I think I said that on a previous video, but it kind of gave me like, it was a reminder like, oh yeah, loving yourself is kingdom. And it's kingdom because the Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, how are you supposed to love anybody else in this world? I know I said that before too, but seriously, how can you love others relationally if you do not love yourself? This is necessary. Anytime you're advancing in the kingdom, if you're a woman praying for a husband, if you're a man praying for a wife, if you have children, if you have family members, friends, whatever, and relationally is like throughout, like it's not just romantically, it's relationally, like in a relation, any type of relationship, friendship, whatever. Like you have to truly love yourself. And you love yourself by speaking life into yourself. You love yourself by telling yourself the things that God promised you, not just telling yourself all the negative things the adversary wants you to replay in your mind to make you feel like trash or make you feel like you aren't ish. It's time for you to start speaking life into yourself. And here's a few biblical terms that helped with me saying that. And this is from a sermon. Well, these are from 3 different sermons, but I put them all together because I was like, ooh, like this is good for me to go back to, especially when my mind starts to wander. And I hope it will help you as well. And maybe you pause, write it down, and then you keep it so that you go back, or you take like a little voice snapshot or something, and you just record this part. And it says all of these things, and then you can keep replaying it back to yourself so that when the adversary tries to tell you you're not worthy, when he tries to tell you that you're not good enough, that you're not, you know, that he tries to place guilt on you or make you feel like you made mistakes or make you feel like, oh, well, you say that you love yourself, but you settled for anything with this guy, or you put up with all of this stuff, or you never held this man accountable. You never walked away and you stayed with this guy too long. Listen, that was the past. It could have been 5 minutes ago. It's the past now. Time to forgive yourself. And I say that because the adversary will try to make you harp on it and make you feel like crap because you didn't stand up for yourself. But that's what you did in the past. 5 minutes ago, a minute ago, an hour ago, a day, a year, however long, it's in the past. It's time to let it go. Forgive yourself. You can't change the fact that it happened, and I know that sucks. I know you wish that you could have a crystal ball or just go in some kind of time machine and go back and then do everything differently, but you can't. And it's okay. That does not mean that your life is over. That does not mean that God can't use you. That does not mean that you can't have better in the future. That means that you messed up at this point in the past. And now that you know better, do better. Learn from it. Use it so that in the future you remember, okay, I had trouble here. I still need to work on loving myself. And I say that because sometimes we feel like, oh, we love ourselves because we put a cute little quote up, or because we dress really well, or because, we got all the makeup Mad can make, or whatever else it is. We always have our nails done. We are smiling. Like, it's great that you do those things for yourself, but self-care and loving yourself is sometimes one and the same, but sometimes different. And I say that because sometimes when you're doing self-care, it helps you love yourself because you feel better on the outside in, or inside out when you're doing the therapy, and then it kind of shows on the outside. But until you truly heal and love yourself, when you are speaking positivity over yourself, when you are not beating yourself up when you do something wrong, like let's say you let some guy just breadcrumb you or give you the bare minimum and not step up or do anything because you never required anything. Instead of you beating yourself up for a year feeling like crap because you know that you deserve better, it's time to let it go. It's okay that you messed up. It's okay that you did things wrong. People will tell you things like, "Oh girl, I could do better about bad all by myself. Oh girl, I would never. Oh, I do this. That's why my man does." Listen, we not worried about their man. You trying to have your own man. That's appointed for you. That's grace for you that God gave you. You don't want nobody else's thing. Okay? So throw that out your head, and men too. Like, we're not worried about what some other guy has, because regardless of what his woman does, you don't know what happens behind closed doors, and also what's grace for you is better for you than what is for somebody else anyways. And so I only say that because we don't need to give the adversary a foothold in our lives. Every time you beat up on yourself, every time. And I would feel so guilty when I saw this guy, like, oh my gosh, I remember I just let him get away with anything. Oh my gosh, I remember when I didn't stand up for myself. Oh my gosh, I remember when I just called him instead of him calling me, or something like that. And I'm just saying that to be transparent because I don't want to sit here on this video like most women do and be like, oh no, I never call a guy first. Listen, most of the time I don't do that. I did that on this one instance, which is why I'm beating myself up so bad, or why I was. I'm not doing that any longer because I don't need to give the adversary a foothold. But listen, so I need to be real because that's the only way I'm going to help people, is if they see the real authentic version of myself. I can't sit here and be like, oh yeah, I always allow guys to always call me. And I don't know why I did that voice. It's nobody in particular. Like, I just, I'm around a lot of women. So I always hear them like, they'll say like some version of what they hoped would happen, or maybe this is their reality. I don't know. But they'll be like, yeah, I never call any guys. Guys always call me because I don't ever want to be the first person that calls. So this person calls you all the time and you never reciprocate. Like, I don't want that type of relationship. I don't say that to them because I don't want them to feel badly, and maybe that's what they need so that they can feel better about themselves, because loving yourself is really important. And I don't want to be the person that's tearing people down. So unless it's something where they ask me my opinion, I don't just divulge information to people like that because they got to live their own life. I only help people that want help. I'm not just trying to step out of the way and step on people's toes and, act like a know-it-all, because I could learn something from them as well. They could say something unintentionally that blesses me. So I'm not trying to overstep. You know what I'm saying? And so, but they'll say things like that. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, I made the mistake of calling somebody before that probably didn't deserve a phone call. I made the mistake of allowing somebody to stick around too long that didn't deserve that much time. I made the mistake of, just doing the most for no reason when I really didn't even need to. Like, I've done all of that in the past, and I don't want to be that person in the future. I want to make sure that I get everything that God has for me. And in order for me to get that, I need to make sure that that person is held accountable. I need to make sure that I'm willing to walk away. I need to make sure that if the person's not going to treat me the right way, I need to make sure that they know how I want to be treated. And they will know that by me having healthy standards and boundaries and standing up for myself in the right way. I don't need to go back and forth with a fool. I'm not talking about that. I just mean, like, let my yes be yes and my no be no's. If I want something, yes, I want that. If I'm not okay with something, no, period. Not a no, comma, and, like a no, period. That's it. End the conversation, walk away, go on with your life. And it's really difficult when you're so used to being that other person to change everything, even when you start loving yourself. That's why it's a process. It's not just like, oh, it's been a year, all of a sudden I'm ready. Like, no, you don't determine when you're ready. Your emotions, your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, God will determine when you're ready. It's not just like you wake up one day and all of a sudden you're healed. It's a process. It takes time. That's why I'm never in a rush to get with somebody. That's I'm not in a rush to get with somebody because I only want what God wants for me. And sometimes I really want other things really badly, but I know they're not good for me. And so I try to always just take my time. I don't want to rush into anything with anybody because I need to know that that person is for real. I need to know that this is the person that God wants to be a part of my life, not just that I want them in my life. And sometimes I really like people, and God would be like, that ain't it. And I'll be like, okay, God, I hear you. He was so, and God's like, look away. One look is good, two looks is less. Like, let it go. And I'm like, yes, Lord. Okay. All right. I know. So here's a couple of verses. I know it took a long time for me to get there, but you know how I do. Okay. So couple things that will help you stay on track when you start to drift and you start to feel unworthy, like you start to feel like guilty, you start to talk really negatively, or all of the cynicism creeps into your mind instead of remembering who and whose you are. Here we go. You are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. You are blessed going and blessed coming. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. Another scripture. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And here's something to remember. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. I know I didn't say I'm more than a conqueror, but throw that one in there too. I am more than a conqueror. Every time you start to feel bad, throw those Bible verses at it. Like and another thing that I do that really is helpful. Sometimes I forget to do this because I'll really be in my own head. But this waking up at 6 or 5 a.m. thing has really been blessing me. It's really been allowing me to just let God do what He needs to do without me feeling like I gotta step in and do all of these things. I have to do this. I'm like, I set my intention on God first. I thank Him for everything because without God, I wouldn't have even woke up and had another breath. So that's the first thing I got to do every single morning. And some people say it's extreme. Like, I have this one family member who will say things like, oh, you just seem too religious. And I'm like, listen, if you was down and out like I was, if you were literally feeling like this was your last day on earth, and I know I say it and I'm doing a little chuckle because I do that when I get nervous sometimes, but seriously, like if you would have felt like nothing, like crap, like a piece of dirt on the ground, if you would have felt like life just, why were you even here? If you would have felt like nobody cares, if you would have felt like life is just going to be miserable and this is just how life is, and you just thought that you had to just settle for anything, if you really never went or fought for anything in your life and you just felt like you just wake up, go to work, go to sleep, wake up, go to work, go to sleep, do normal stuff, like without living, if you felt like that and you got down to one of the worst moments in your entire life and you really felt like that was the last day, you really felt like you don't know how you're going to go on in life, and you called out to God and God saved you, you would be waking up and going to sleep to God every day too. Like, it's not just like I do it because I'm trying to rub it in anybody's face. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to be holier than thou. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to be a goody two shoes. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to prove to somebody that I'm something that I'm not. I'm doing it because God deserves everything from me. Like, I owe God my life. You don't even understand. Like, I had no idea that I could have joy and peace in my life. I had no idea that I even deserved to be treated better. I didn't even know that God had more for me. I thought that I was just here. I didn't even know that I had a purpose, you know? Oof. Every time I wake up, I thank God because I shouldn't have even been here, but I'm supposed to be here, you know? And it's only by the grace of God. It's only by the grace of God that I'm here. And for the people who say that I'm a goody two shoes, I know like some people think that that's a good thing to say, like, oh yeah, that means that you're good and this and that, and I appreciate you saying that I'm good. But I'm not trying to be a goody two shoes. I have nothing to prove to anybody else. The only person I'm trying to prove anything to is God. God deserves everything from me. He deserves everything from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet to the house to the car, everything. Whatever it is that he wants, he's got it. Like, whatever I got to do, I need to do it. And you think that I'm over exaggerating, but for real, like none of this is mine. None of this matters without God. I lived my life without God and it was miserable. I don't care if I had trillions of dollars. If I didn't have God in my life, it would not be worth it. It just wouldn't. And people say money can buy happiness. Money can buy a lot of things, and I can go on a lot of trips and make memories. But without God, I don't know who I would have been. Without God, I wouldn't feel peace and joy. I probably would, and I'd probably be gone anyways because nothing would have gave me the peace or the hope or filled my soul like God does. You know, and if focusing on God and trying to do the right thing makes me a goody two shoes, then I guess it is what it is. If people want to say I'm holier than now, I hope that the people that God wants me to help don't think that I'm holier than now. Just because I'm seeking God first doesn't mean I'm holier than now. I never want anybody to feel judged at all. Like, I just want them to feel helped, to feel inspired, motivated, to know that they're not alone. I'm not ever trying to make somebody feel like, oh yeah, I just do everything right. Listen, if you thought that I was a perfect person that never made mistakes, you got the wrong one because I am so flawed. I mess up all the time. I do a lot of things wrong. Like every single day I make a mistake and I try to learn from it and grow from it and become better for the next day. That's what I do with those mistakes. I try not to harp on it. I try not to live there. I just try to know that it's a mistake. I know that I messed up. I acknowledge that I messed up. I feel angry, sad, however it is I need to feel, and I keep it moving because that's all I can do. I can't change the past. You can never change the past. And anytime you feel something inside of you trying to reminisce on a mistake that you made, it's all the adversary trying to keep you stuck. Because as long as he keeps you drifting, he can stop you from your purpose. And that's the only thing he wants from you. He never wants you to fulfill the things that God placed on the inside of you. If you really are tired of just going nowhere in your life, if you're tired of trying to find, alcohol, drugs, intimacy, whatever is pleasing to your flesh, food, whatever you're seeking in the world because you think it's going to fill you up, it never will. I promise you the only thing that's going to fill you up is God. The only thing that's going to be enough that's going to give you that type of peace is God. And you could be doing all the wrong things and just feel in a moment satisfied. That's all it is. It's a temporary feel. It's temporary satisfaction. It's not something that would withstand the test of time. Only God can do that. So you might be like, oh, well, she's saying that it won't do this, but look, I'm good right now. And an hour later, I bet you're not feeling like that. The next day, I bet you don't feel like that. I bet. And not bet for real, because I don't do that, but you know what I'm saying. It's all temporary. Everything that the adversary gives you is temporary. If he gives you a blessing, or you're doing something and you end up perceiving it as a blessing, it's because he's taking you to the top to throw you off the side. It's not because he really wants you to have it. So you might have all those things, it might look nice, it might look good, but you will be sacrificing your integrity. You will be somebody that you don't want to be. You will be surrounded by people who will not be there for you. You know, you'll have all the things that look good, but you won't be good. Would you rather have those things or your soul? You know, what good is it for a man to, what good does it profit a man to sell his soul, to gain the world and lose his soul? I know I said that wrong at first, but you know what I meant. It you without God it's nothing. You know, it really is. It's not nothing. It isn't anything. Oh my goodness. Why do I keep on doing that? Okay, it's time to get off this video because obviously it's getting a little mm. So the pastor said something that I think it will be helpful. Just stay focused on God. You know, every time that I do these videos, I'm not doing it for the people, I'm doing it for God. And I hope that it benefits the people. I really truly hope that every time God puts me on here, I'm helping somebody. Somebody is gaining something. Somebody's learning something. Somebody is not feeling like they're alone. They know that they're not the only ones that felt like they just kept trying to feed this empty soul, empty hole in their soul that just never got full. That no matter what guy they were with, they never felt like they were completely full or good enough. Like they never felt like it was enough because only God's enough, you know? No matter what it was that they were smoking, sipping, tripping. I got that from a song from Lecrae. So that's not me, that's Lecrae. But you know, whatever they were doing, it just wasn't enough. It's because only God's enough. The only reason I feel content in my life, like I see a lot of other people, and I'm not saying for women of God or anything like that, but I see a lot of people put a lot of like stock on a person. Like, oh yeah, if I get with this person, I'll be happy. I know no person will ever make me happy. I mean, I will have happy times, but no person will ever give me joy, if that makes any sense. I only get my joy from God, and I have to make myself happy, which is why I do all the courses, which is why I do all the self work. And that does not mean that I don't get lonely and I don't desire to be with somebody else. That just means that I'm content with where I am and wherever God wants to place me in my life. Sometimes it's hard because, you know, I'll meet a bunch of people and none of those people will be equally yoked, or you know, it'll just seem like every person is just trying it. Then I got to be about that, you know, integrity, or I got to be about that accountability, and I just have to move on with my life. And it sucks sometimes. It really does, because it's like, dang, you know, sometimes it seems so much easier just to settle. Sometimes it seems so much easier just to blah. But then I remember the one guy that I didn't hold accountable. The one guy that, the one of two, because you know that 15-year relationship, and then this other guy. But then I remember this other guy who, you know, I never required to treat me the way that I wanted to be treated. And how can you expect somebody to treat you the way that you want to be treated if you're settling for something less than God's best for you, you know? Or you are just never requiring them or holding them accountable or willing to walk away. You know, how could you ever expect somebody to treat you with honor and uh, common decency and respect? They can't respect you if you don't respect yourself. They just can't. It doesn't even make any sense. You truly loving yourself is you respecting and honoring yourself. And you do that by showing people how to treat you the right way. And I know you're probably saying, well, I do this, I say that. It's not just about you saying things, it's about action. When you want to be treated well, you require somebody to treat you well. And you do that by, if they don't want to treat you well, you walk away. And I don't mean like, let's say the person says something like, this is just an example, but this is the only thing I can think of right now. Let's say the person is, you talk to this person and you're getting to know each other, and they're like, I don't really call like that. And you say, well, calling is important to me because it builds, trust and connection and communication is really important for a relationship. You don't even have to explain it. Just say you would like the person to call. They don't want to call you. They don't feel like you're worth it. That's it. Like, and you just move on with your life. And hopefully you're strong enough to just move on. And you don't just like sit around waiting for them to change their mind, or just feeling like, oh, well, maybe I'm too hard on this person. No, listen. I'm telling you from experience. Please listen to what I'm saying. Please listen to what I'm saying. Every time you settle for something less than what you deserve, it makes you more insecure. It makes you more toxic. I don't want to say toxic, that's a little harsh, but it pulls a piece of you away. That respect that you have for yourself lowers every time you allow somebody to get away with something that you know you don't deserve. Every time they only want to text you and don't want to call you. Every time they say they're going to do something and they don't step up. They don't step up is the only word that I can think of, but I'm thinking of something else too, but I can't think of the word right now. But every time they say they're going to do something and they don't do it, they're not a man of their word, and you just settle for it, you're losing respect for yourself. Every time you get a text message after you said that you only want phone calls and you accept a text message, you are lowering respect for yourself. Every time you set a boundary and they cross it and you don't check them on it, you are lowering respect for yourself. Do you really truly love yourself, honor and respect yourself? And I don't mean you just gonna lie to yourself right now and be like, girl, yeah, of course I love myself. Have you seen how good I'm looking? And you talk yourself up and you feel all good, and then you get with the next guy. And every single guy keeps giving you the bare minimum and you keep accepting it over and over and over again. That is not you loving yourself. That's the opposite of loving yourself. That's like you really hate yourself. If you are doing nothing but negative self-talk to yourself and settling for these men that don't want to step up, these men that just barely do anything, that just want to get fly by night, fly by the seat of their pants kind of guys. If you just keep settling for stuff like that, you do not love yourself. I know sometimes we want to make it seem like loving yourself is a few mantras, a few cliches, some outfits. You pay a lot of money to get your lashes done or something like that, and that means you love yourself. It's nice to do those things for yourself, but that does not equate to loving yourself. That equates to you making up yourself. Are you trying to look like you love yourself, or are you really trying to love yourself? You really have to think about that. And men too. It's not just a woman thing. I only say it like that because I've been there as a woman. So I know how it feels. And I really want every woman to love themselves, and man. I want every single household to be healthy and kingdom. Like, I'm trying to get everybody to be like, okay, good. And so that women that have daughters, their daughters don't just settle for breadcrumbs, Because if you wouldn't want your daughter to be treated like that, don't settle for it. You have to love yourself enough to set a good example for them. And boys too. Like, I know it sounds cute when it's a man with all these women and all this other stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, you're the man, look at you getting all these girls. All these girls are getting heartbroken. You have a daughter and your son is treating these women like you would never want your daughter to be treated. That is not a good example. I know men probably aren't going to listen to me. They probably don't care, They're probably just doing their own thing, like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm going to still be out here in these streets. But listen, if you wouldn't want your daughter to be treated that way, probably don't treat a woman like that. And I know no man is going to ever listen to what I say and like take heed to that. But we need to stop having these broken households. There needs to be a real family structure so that these young boys and young women know how to carry themselves like children of God instead of children of the world, you know? They really need to be able to see a good example, see what a loving household looks like, see what it feels like to have both parents in the house instead of broken families everywhere. You know, because that self-loathing, that negative self-talk, all of those avenues for the adversary to come in is from people without vision, not knowing who they are, jumping into something that the world tells them is normal, you know, instead of going for what God calls as normal, instead of setting biblical standards for your life, instead of really treating your wife like Christ loved the church, and women respecting your man instead of like yelling at him and screaming at him and treating him like you didn't just pray for him, you know? Like, I really think we need to really start loving ourselves, men and women. Like, it's not just about men going to the gym getting buffed up and not doing the real emotional work, like going to see a therapist or dealing with their childhood issues and seeking God so that God can lead them to the purpose that He placed on them so they can really lead a household, you know? And for women, it's about a lot more than just, you know, surgeries. And sorry to say it like that, I don't have anything bad or good to say about surgeries. Like, I'm unbiased when it comes to that. I only said surgeries because sometimes when you were younger and you dealt with an insecurity, it's easy to go get surgery to feel like you're going to fix the issue, but the issue lies here. It's not on your body, you know? And people are going to get so mad at me when I say this, but I'm not judgmental towards anyone who does or does not do that. I really feel like before you make a decision like that, really start doing the self work and healing to see if that's what you truly want. Because sometimes you'll make a decision like that and then you'll realize, like, oh, I never even really wanted that. I just thought that's what I wanted because people made me feel like blah, or because family members or friends used to say blah, or because this ex talked to me about blah. You know, like there was this one person who got picked on about their lips all the time, and they're like, "Oh, my lips are so small," and this one guy told them that they had like small lips, and so as soon as they turned 18, they went and got lip injections, and it's now their thing. They always get lip injections, and it's nothing wrong with somebody doing like. I feel like I don't need to be talking about this because people are gonna be mad either way. But I just want people to love themselves. That's the bottom line. Just love yourself. And I know some people are like, well, it's easy for you to say because you have lips like this. Listen, just because everybody's insecure about something, you have to learn to love it. You know, could have been insecure about my skin complexion. I love my skin complexion now. You know, so it's not like I don't know how it feels to have had an insecurity, or to have things that you want or that you can't have or whatever else. Like, I know how it feels all too well, which is why I'm saying something about it. I'm not just saying it just to like look down my nose at someone and be like, "Oh, you have an insecurity." Like, listen, we have all had insecurities in our life, but I hope that you choose to love yourself. Truly love yourself, not just fake it for some social media post or or some guy that you're with or woman that you're with, or you know, just to make it seem as if you have it all together. I need you to really get it together for real in real life. IRL. I just did that. Okay. So in conclusion, truly love yourself. Love the you that God created you to be. Know who you are and whose you are. You don't have to prove to anybody else that you're doing better than you are. You just have to prove to God that He made the right decision. That's what I think of. I know you're like, that's like a little strange thing to put on yourself or whatever, but every time I think about doing something wrong, every time I think about making the wrong choice, every time I think about like in my life when I'm doing something and somebody says something either negative or positive, I remind myself that it's not about them. That it's nice when people compliment me. And when people have something bad to say, I can't let them ruin my day because the only person's opinion that matters is God's. God is the one who created me. God is the one who knows every hair on my head. God is the one who saved me. God is the one who gives me joy and peace. No other person could give me joy or peace. Now they can add, we can make memories and be happy, have happy memories in our life. But if I allow my whole demeanor, my whole everything to hang on the balance of somebody else, they will be able to build me up and break me. And I don't want any person to have that kind of control over me, you know? So when you start to love yourself, that means you're not settling for anything in relationships, in family, friends, romantic relationships. And I don't mean like you compromise on something. I mean, if you know you want to be honored and respected and loved the way that Christ loved the church and the way that God intended for you to be treated as his daughter, then you can't accept anything less. No excuses. It's not oh, but he's a nice guy. If he's a nice guy, he should be treating you right. Like, it's nothing worse than a nice guy that breadcrumbs you. It's nothing worse than a nice guy who will never see your value because you're not allowing him to step up and do what it is that God is intending for him to do. Because no one will ever be able to treat you right if you're not requiring it. You know, you can say all the words you want, but until you start putting some action behind it, until you start actually being like, look, this is how I want to be treated. And you don't have to say anything. You really have to be about action. You really have to be willing to be a woman of respect and honor, to be treated with respect and honor. You know, it's not something that you can fake. If you keep on settling over and over again and just accepting the bare minimum, that's all you're ever going to get from any man, no matter if he's good, bad, or indifferent. Every single guy, the hood guy is gonna give you the bare minimum. The nice church guy is gonna give you the bare minimum. The guy who's kind of in church, kind of in the world is going to give you the bare minimum. Every single guy that you ever meet will give you the bare minimum if that's all you require. Until you decide that you really love, honor, and respect yourself and that you want more. Do you want more? Do you really want to be treated like that? Or do you just want to conform to the ways of the world because you see your girlfriends, other people just settle for anything and you feel like, okay, well, I haven't met a guy like that yet, so what's the point? No, the point is that you love yourself. The point is that you respect yourself. And I will tell you, like, I spent many nights crying because I never required anything from this one guy. And I just allowed breadcrumbing and the bare minimum. And I felt like crap every single time I talked to this person. Every time I said something or they reached out or, we had a conversation through text or we saw each other somewhere, I felt like crap. If I cursed, I would say the S word right there. Like, I felt that grimy and dirty and just like a piece of trash every single time I talked to that person because I knew that I deserved better. And it's something different when you start healing and you accept something like that. It does something to the inside of you. Like, I felt like my heart I was breaking my own heart. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I knew I deserved better and I still settled for less. Like, that's the worst feeling in the world. I thought that the worst feeling was heartbreak. But when you break your own heart, whew, and you know you deserve better, and you know you want to be treated better, and you know that God promised you better than that, and you get the bare minimum, oh my gosh, whew, that's a real gut punch. Like, it is not a good feeling at all. So when you start loving yourself, you're going to really have to be about the action too. Don't just say a bunch of words. Don't just be ready. Don't jump into it because other people are pushing you into a relationship. If you're not ready, wait. Because if you jump into it, you're going to settle on a lot of things because you're going to feel like, well, I'm not ready anyway. So if this person is just doing stuff here and there, that's fine. No, it's not fine. Stay single if you're not ready for them to be about that life, about that intentionality life. If you're not ready for them to step up, I don't care how shy they are. I don't care what type of personality they are. If they want you, they're coming for you. Don't just be like, well, I'm not really ready, so I'm just going to settle for all of these little bare minimum breadcrumbing crappy things, Like, don't talk to nobody. Just be by yourself. Be all in one alone. Just spend time with God, build your relationship with God, and do fun stuff with your life. Like, that's what you need to do. Don't be talking to nobody if you feel like you're not ready yet, because they're going to give you this little half breadcrumbing, half stepping kind of behavior, and you're going to accept it because you're not ready. When you're really ready, when you really truly love yourself, the person is going to have to be intentional. And you are going to have to love yourself and hold them accountable and be ready to walk away if you're not getting what you deserve. It doesn't matter how fine they are. It doesn't matter how nice they are. It doesn't matter how much they love God. None of that matters if you're not being treated like the woman of God that you are. None of that matters if you're not being treated the way God intended for you to be treated by the person who is grace for you. If you're getting half, half step and half, what behavior, then you need to run away. Don't just walk. Don't just half walk. Like, just run. Run away. Go on with your life. Keep living your life. Do the things that you need to do to better yourself. Because it's nothing worse than settling for God's best for you. It's nothing worse than that, especially when you've done the work, especially when you're healing, especially when you're starting to love yourself, or you felt like you loved yourself. The true test of loving yourself is you standing your ground. That's the true test. And it's no like potion for it. It's not like, oh yeah, you watch this video and the next guy that you meet who's looking like they're looking like let me tell you how the adversary comes. Put my notebook down for this one. The guy is going to just, let's say you're into eyes or something, or you're into light skinned guys or something. Adversary going to send you a guy who is light skinned with beautiful eyes, and he's not going to be like overly muscular, but he's going to be like the type of person that stays fit because you like that. He's going to be talking about scriptures or quoting scriptures because he's going to see your cross necklace. He's going to like have this swag about him, and he's got swag because, he's done a lot of talking in his life. And he is just going to be the type of thing that you would imagine that God would send for you because you've been waiting for this person. Let's just put it that way. He's not going to be like some supermodel who's just takes a bunch of steroids and looks like, something else. He's going to be exactly what you want. And he's going to try you. He's going to really try you. He's going to be the nicest person you've ever met. And he's going to try you. He's going to try you by sending you a text message to see if you tell him to call you. And I don't mean that's like, don't just go by what I'm saying. I'm just giving examples right now. And he will continuously text until you check him, until you say that you would rather talk over the phone if that's what's really important to you. He might even after you say it, not call you. And then you're feeling like, oh, well, maybe something's wrong with me because this is such a nice guy who's everything that I want. Just because he's everything that you want doesn't mean that you're what he wants. And even if he does want you, if he's not willing to put forth an effort, then you need to move on with your life. But the adversary will have him looking like he's looking like that. Like, it'll be exactly what you want. I mean, the eyes on point. The complexion on point. And it doesn't matter complexion. I'll just use an example because I don't have a preference. I just have I just want to stay focused on God, whatever God wants to give me, and I want to be attracted to them in some sort of way. That's my two things: God and attracted in some way. I don't have a list, nothing else. I know God sees people differently than I do. I'm not getting on God. That's what I want. I want, those two things. If we're not equally yoked in God, they don't know that God, Jesus Christ, is their Lord and Savior, then we don't have anything to talk about. We could have everything else in common. They could treat me like a queen, but and queen, by queen I mean kingdom of God ambassador, like I'm God's daughter. I'm a queen because of that, not in the other way. And so regardless, if they don't know God, it just isn't gonna work, And so I say all of that because the adversary will send you somebody that's looking like they're looking. They're gonna look good. woo, they gonna look good. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but I gotta be real on this video because some women are like, oh, he's gonna look okay, or it's gonna be, and in theory, when you think about it in your head, you're like, I don't care how fine he is. I'm not gonna fall for that. I'm not worried about that. And then you see him. And then you get like the little people on the side of your in your circle that's like, ooh, he seems like a real like he's really good at being good in front of other people. And so in front of other people, he's nice, he's kind, he's considerate, he's all of these things. He's looking good, he's talking good, he's got a good head on his shoulders. And when he talks to you, he tries it. I mean, he really tries it. And you're like, everybody thinks this is a cool person, and I like this person because of the way they treat everybody else, but the way they treat me is crap. Like, and you know you gotta walk away. And it's gonna be so, so, so hard. So hard to walk away. People try to make it seem like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna walk away. No, it's gonna be looking like it's looking. It's gonna be everything that you want. It's gonna be, whoo, you're gonna be like, God, for real. You're gonna be struggling to walk away. Like, it's not gonna be like, I'm not gonna say that corny thing that guys kind of say sometimes. I'm not gonna say that. But it's gonna be looking like that. And you're gonna be like, I gotta walk away from this. Okay. Oh, okay. You see how my voice got a little weak? Like, okay. It's not gonna be like, okay, girl, I'm just walking away. Like, when you in the situation, when you're in the field, it's not gonna be easy. You're gonna have to really be about that intentionality life. Like, you're gonna have to really, truly love yourself. You're gonna have to love yourself more than how fine and just seemingly like everything that you want this guy is. You're gonna have to love yourself above that guy's uh whatever representative, or who that could be who he truly is, but the way he's treating you is not the way that you want to be treated at all. He is not honoring or respecting you. He is not respecting your boundaries. Like when you say that you rather talk over the phone, if he really wanted you that badly, he'd be calling you, like he gonna really try it like that, and you gonna have no choice but to walk away or be like, look, I just don't think you're a good fit for me. You're gonna have to say things like that just to try to get him away from your life, and he might still be around somewhere, you know. Like it's gonna be difficult. I had to say every single syllable because you don't understand how hard it's gonna be. I'm telling you. Like you think it's gonna be easy, and people sit on these videos and they're like, oh yeah, I just had to cut him off. And it's like, listen, girl, let's be real. Because and guys too, if you with that girl and the body's looking like it's looking, you talking to the person and they just, I mean, they're cool with people that's in your, I don't know if guys deal with this, but for women it's a thing. Like you got your moms, other people, and they're like, oh, I really love this girl so much. And I mean, the body's bad, the mind's bad. Like she just really looking like she looking. And, and the way she act towards you is stink. Like it's real bad. Like she got a mouth on her that's the nagging, and the Bible says that nothing's worse than a nagging woman. She's always wants something from you and never is willing to give anything to you. She's so selfish. She just only considers herself. She she's not the type of woman that you would want your daughter to be like. Like yes, she can hold a conversation with people in your life, but her personality is not good at all. She is, if anything, bad for you. Like, besides, the body looking like it's looking, she has nothing else to offer you. She has everything to gain from you, but nothing to offer you. And God is saying, let that go, or you know that you deserve better than that. No. How easy is it for you to let that go? This is how it is. This is how the adversary try to play you. Like he really be coming. He be coming for real. And you be like, oh my gosh. Like what? And then, ooh. Then he's gonna do stuff like you're gonna try to cut it off, or you're gonna like walk away. The person will step up and do a little more, but not just enough to leave you hooked, just enough to breadcrumb you. Like you're starving and you want something to eat, so here's a little breadcrumb. You eat it and you're like, okay, I feel a little better. Then you're starting to get hungry again. Oh, here's a little breadcrumb. Just enough for you not to starve, but enough for you to never feel satisfied is exactly what that person will give you. And you will know that you should be letting this person go, but it's going to be so difficult. So difficult. And I'm there with you. I've been there, done that, which is why I'm talking about it, because I want to warn you. And I hope that you will be stronger than I was in that situation, because I sucked. I sucked at it, and I'm good now. I mean, I'm getting everything that God intended for me to have. Like, every person that God sends my way, or that God, the person that God graces from my life, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to be sticking to my standards. I'm going to be loving myself inside and out the right way, every single way, up and down, side to side, whatever I got to do to get it together to make sure that I'm living the life that is pleasing to the kingdom. Because not only is loving myself good for me, but it is absolutely beneficial for the kingdom. So I can love other people the right way, so that other people treat me the right way, so that I'm about that action. Like, in the future, in Jesus' name, I'm about all action, nothing else. No longer accepting any breadcrumbs. Like, I'm Xing that out of my whole life. There's no foothold for the adversary here. Like, it's time to be intentionally living my life like Christ, the way that the Bible intended. If I want to be treated like Christ loved the church, I need to be acting like I want to be treated like Christ loved the church. I can't just be acting like I'm going to accept bare minimum breadcrumbs, low energy. Like, I'm going to need that full energy. I'm going to need everything that God has for me. I'm not trying to be lack on a man and then be successful in my career. I don't want to be that person who just has one thing. I'm trying to have it all. Everything that God is going to allow me to have, I want all of it in my life. And I can't settle in any area, no matter how fine a person is, no matter how good of a person the person is. Until they treat me good, as good of a person as they pretend to be, I can't have anything less than that. I just can't. And I'm praying so hard, like, God, the next person that you send who is a real person that I would be interested in, please give me the strength and the power of discernment and the ability to just be able to stand my ground, the ability to just be able to not accept breadcrumbs, the ability to be able to be about that action, to really truly love myself, because I know that this is what you require. This is what the kingdom requires. If I want to have a relationship that's a reflection of the kingdom, then they need to be held accountable. I need to be requiring realistic things that God would have for me to have in my life. And I don't mean I got this list of, this person has to come at 3 p.m. to do blah. This person has to be 6 foot with a six pack, and their hair has to look like this in this texture. Like, I don't have no list like that. That's crazy. I don't have one of those. It's more like I just want to be treated with decency, common decency. Like, I just want to be treated like a human being with dignity and respect, the way that God intended for me to be treated. That's what my requirement is. I don't want any person to just give me the bare minimum. I don't want any person to breadcrumb me. I don't want any person to just barely do anything. I want to really feel appreciated. Because if I'm gonna, like, the guy that I'm with, he gonna be feeling good. Like, like, I know you're probably saying, how can you be so cynical about yourself? But you gonna really be willing. Listen, if the guy that God is appointing for me, I'm going to be speaking life into him. I'm going to be making sure that, he knows that I respect the mess out of him. Like, for real. And however God wants me to treat him, I'm going to be treating him with the utmost respect. Like, yes. Yes. And so, always love yourself and know who you are and whose you are. I know I've been saying that a lot lately, but it's so true, because when you start studying the Bible, when you start listening to what it is that God wants for you to do, it allows you to be about that God life. It allows you to really honor and respect yourself. It allows you to be patient and kind and considerate and compassionate and having healthy standards and boundaries and not boastful or envious or jealous. And it just allows you to just not keep records of wrongs, to be the love that you want to receive. It allows you to truly see who you are Like, don't you know that you deserve better? Don't you know that God wants you to have more than the bare minimum? Don't you know that God wants you to have more than the things that you settled for in the past? Don't you know that God never intended for you to have to go through heartbreak after heartbreak because He has a person appointed for you? Don't you know that God never intended for you to be used for the things that you can do for somebody else because of the person that you are? Don't you know that God always had a purpose for your life and that you don't have to just wake up and go to sleep? You can really be serving intentional. You can really be doing something to change the world. Don't you know that God has so much more for you than what you're willing to settle for? Do you really know that? Do you really love yourself?